Hello and welcome to a very special Gamescom 2025 episode of Nintendo Voice Chat, live from beautiful Cologne, Germany, a city known for giving the world delicious beer, breathtaking views of the Dom Cathedral, and a guy named Peer Schneider. I'm your host, Brian Altano, joined by my Super Nintendos, Jada Griffin, and the aforementioned Peer Schneider. Welcome.
Hey, I was born
everybody.
right here, actually, under the studio. It was back,
Is that the smell?
I thought
yes.
I thought he was going to say on this couch.
I'm very,
Right.
I'm very sorry.
I'm glad we both went to the same place. Nintendo had a pretty massive presence here at Gamescom. One of the biggest booths I've ever seen them do. They had this gigantic stage where people could compete in Mario Kart. They had, for the first days we were here, covered in tarps, one section specifically. And we were like, what is it? What could it be? And then they announced we're doing a direct for Kirby Air Riders. Wasn't the only surprise at the show. They also, Hollow Knight was playable at their booth for the first time. So before we get into impressions on Hollow Knight, Pokemon, Kirby, Elden Ring, all the other stuff we played, I wanted to talk real quick about Nintendo's presence here at Gamescom, because this was the first show that I've been to where the Switch 2 is out in the wild. It's not a secret. It's not a rumor. It's not a 3D printed thing that some third-party company has off to the side. The Switch 2 is out. But you wouldn't really know it if you went to anybody else's booth but Nintendo's.
I think that's the effect of Nintendo playing the hardware specs and the actual development hardware really close to their chest before release, right? They obviously, CD Projekt Red got early hardware to work on their Cyberpunk port, but I think a lot of studios did not participate that early, and you're sort of seeing the results of it. And then the bigger companies were all playing it safe and developing ports, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you're not going to go to a Ubisoft booth and see the Switch 2 port of one of their older games running there because they're focusing entirely on Anno, their new game, right? And so, yeah, it's a little sad. I do love that they're back. Nintendo has always been a huge component of Gamescom. I've been to, I think it's been like 15 Gamescoms. 2 were actually virtual in our own studio in LA. And I've been to all of them, and Nintendo was always pretty big. They always do like this big stage with competitions, then they have a playable area. It's always packed. This looked really big and healthy with a really big Pokemon presence. So it's awesome, and you certainly can't walk around and feel like Nintendo is not here.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you're looking at everybody else, it's a little bit, it's a little muted.
Yeah, so hopefully we get a little more playable games on Switch 2s at the next Gamescom or the next event, right? There's plenty more between now and then. Even though E3 is long gone, Gamescom lives on. It's the biggest in the world. One of the biggest games here was actually, kind of a small one. It's an indie game. It's Hollow Knight Silksong. We got a debut trailer for it with a release date, which is September 4th. A lot of people are going to play this. A lot of people are going to play this on Switch 2 specifically.
Yep.
This is one of those things that just feels like the thing you want to play on that big screen, on portable, on an airplane, in a car, anywhere you go, right? Not while driving, hopefully. But Jada, you got to play Hollow Knight Silksong at Gamescom. Tell us about it.
I did. It's great. It's hauntingly beautiful in the way that Hollow Knight is. The creatures, the just the ambience of the world is just masterful. It looks to be way bigger than Hollow Knight originally, and the developer says it's going to be bigger. There's like 150 more different enemies to fight this time around, supposedly, so that's good news for me, who likes to fight and destroy things.
You love to kill stuff.
I do like to kill stuff, so I'm very excited for that. I'm very happy for all the backers who initially backed it, because they updated their Kickstarter saying that they're going to be reaching out shortly to take care of the original backers and get them keys for Silksong.
Yeah.
And so, but this is great. Highly recommend, if you're able to get here, and if you're at Gamescom and you want to play it, go to their booth early, because the line has been capping out at about 11 a.m. Each morning.
The line is so long that the line is so long that I think by the time you reach the end of it, the game would just be out and you could just download it on your Switch too.
I saw the same Gamescom until September 4th.
We our neighbors over there have Metal Gear Solid Delta, another gigantic line, and it's like that game's out in like a week. So I get it, but also value your time.
Jada, thank you for reminding us that there was a Kickstarter, because like when you hear Hollow Knight, Hollow Knight is like the little big game, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like everybody in media and even gamers were getting frustrated that Team Cherry doesn't observe the sort of traditional marketing approach of telling you constantly when the game is coming. They just went quiet, right?
Yeah.
Like they announced it really early and said, see you in the future, and then like it's it's months and months of nothing. And like, you wouldn't think a game like this needs a Kickstarter, and it honestly doesn't. When I look at traffic on IGN, like the sort of demand from players, the original Hollow Knight turned into a huge hit.
Yeah.
Like a bona fide hit. Everybody's looking forward to it. It's like, it's a wonderful Metroidvania with a very different art style from most of the games out there. It's just kind of cool to see. We actually, because we knew this would happen, we knew that the moment the release date would be announced, people would go back and play the original. So we made an all-new map on IGN and Map Genie for the original game, and already traffic's going up. Because
nice.
like, everybody who saw this went, oh, I got to go back. I got to play it before the new one comes out.
Yeah, I've seen the game.
I've got to go finish it.
It's been on sale in a bunch of places too, so yeah, go check out that map. A slightly less punishing and challenging game that is at the show floor, but also got a 45-minute Nintendo Direct this week, is a game called Kirby Air Riders. So we got a 45-minute Direct hosted by legendary game designer Masahiro Sakurai. Super cool. I think it felt sort of like a send-up of Nintendo Directs at first. You know, like it felt like they were sort of like, you know, poking fun a little bit at
100%.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then it kept going. And going and going. And as Logan Plant, regular host here on NVC, pointed out, it sort of devolved into him just reading the manual, which I think is a very funny bit. But Peer, you and I got to play this on the show floor, and our thoughts were a little mixed. I really appreciate where this game is going and what it's attempting, but also it was kind of chaos. It's simultaneously like very, very simple and very, very chaotic, a little frenetic, and I think we'll find our balance there eventually. But from our demo on the show floor, we mostly focused on the sort of the city area, which we didn't get to race as much, which I'm a little bummed about. But yeah, what did you think?
It's really funny because we did this video reaction to it, and we said, look, this might not be the game for us. And some people said, why do you put old people on camera talking about it? Well, we were not old people when Kirby Air Ride came out, and we all played it, and we know what it is. And when I talk about my kids, I'm not saying it's a kid's game. They're now 24, 23, and 18 years old, and they'd be really mad at me for saying that I don't like it. No, it's very chaotic, but there's this sort of genius concept inside, right? At least for City Trial. I'm a big racing game fan. I always found the racing in the original Kirby Air Ride to just be weak, right? It's like, we joked it's a game that plays itself. You can actually put your controller down and Kirby will win that first race, if you're lucky. But there is obviously lots of technique in it, especially with a sort of like slow down to drift and boost. There's a lot in that. This game has a ton more, right? So it's not just a redo. There's just a lot more going on. And then it's really not about the racing. It's City Trial, right? This sort of Smash Brothers-like concept, with, in past Smash Brothers game, you had a board game element and then you had the combat. This is similar, only that the board game is an action game that leads to a shorter action game challenge.
Yeah, well said.
And so the City Trial thing is really all about building up your character in different ways. And then there's almost like a social game element where when you're voting on what competition to enter with your upgraded character, you know what you're strong at and you can pick what you're strong at, or you can mislead people and pick what you're not strong at to make them pick the other thing, right? It's like the Princess Bride, right? It's like about, I knew you were going to poison it, right? And so I think it's brilliant, but my complaint, and I think it's the same as yours, it's like, it just doesn't feel that great to me.
Yeah, for having such simplified controls, I would think that it would sort of click a lot more naturally.
Yeah.
And it just kind of hasn't yet. And again, I'm going to get this game when it comes out. I'm going to play it because this is, one of my favorite game designers of all time is making a new game. And he's very clearly doing something that is deliberately not Smash Brothers, even if it has a lot of Smash Brothers
No, and it's not Mario Kart. He was joking about that. It absolutely does not feel like Mario Kart in the racing levels. We got to play a racing challenge. We didn't get to play the main racing mode. That wasn't in the demo. But like even the sort of short races, you can tell it feels really differently. What I like about it are the different events going on. So the proof is really in the couch co-op.
Yeah.
Like, I want to bring this home. I want to get my kids back together and play.
Yeah.
And do City Trial the old-fashioned way.
While you guys were doing City Trial, did you get to try out some of the different vehicles?
Yeah. And and you have attacks, obviously, right? You can charge and attack your opponents. You can do like instant switches to a new rider you find, and then upgrade the rider. The riders have different capabilities, right? Like some are better for floating far, some are faster, some are better at turning on a dime, that sort of stuff. And so picking the right rider and then picking the right areas and things that give you the power-ups, that's crucial. You want to obviously upgrade a rider that's good for floating a long way with the ability to float longer, right? And so it is very strategic, and that strategy, when you watch this game, is kind of lost in the mayhem and the chaos. And what I really love are the sort of almost like server events where it's like, hey, everybody congregate in this one corner because something's coming down that you can bust open by all attacking it. It's almost like everybody work together, but then when it bursts, everybody for themselves grab all the power-ups and get everybody else on the way. It's very frantic. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun to play, but I wish it felt a little bit different.
I'm curious how I'm going to react once I play it, because I really love games where I get to min-max my stats and do things like that, so I think I'm really going to vibe with that element. But if the depth isn't there in the mini-games or the different clashes and different combat types things, I think that's where it may lose me. But like I said, I still haven't played it yet, so hopefully when it drops, I'll,
Yeah, we were sort of wondering, like, what's the, not necessarily the end game, but like, what are you building towards? Like, obviously you're going to be unlocking characters and vehicles and stuff like that. And, like the first one in like every Smash Brothers games has had just this massive checklist of things to do, these little tick boxes, right? And so if your brain is the type, and I know it is, to say, hey, Jada, get every single one of those, then maybe that's the thing that'll compel you to keep playing over and over. But I think there's going to be specific factors that will have to work for this game to really click with you long term. I wish
this was a Nintendo Switch online game. Not to say that they still can't do something like this, but when you see City Trial, it's a map that gets repeated and repeated in the original game, of course. It would be so cool if there were seasons where every quarter year you then get a new version of City Trial, and so everybody has to relearn it, discover new stuff, and so it doesn't just become this sort of routine combat, right?
So, Perry, you're asking for a live service Nintendo game?
I'd see. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. I would love it to be. That's why I'm saying Nintendo Switch Online. I'm already paying. I actually have a family account, and so I love how Tetris 99 switches up its theme, and it would be so perfect for a game like this.
No,
right?
I totally agree. I think it would be very beneficial to have some elements change, even if it's just a small thing like buildings moving around, rotating, things lifting into the sky.
What?
A Nintendo Switch exclusive online game just launched, starring an adorable ball. It's called Dragon Drive, and it's available right now on Nintendo Switch.
I cannot believe you brought that one up. but what's really interesting about Kirby Air Riders and Kirby Air Ride is that, to me, the difference in game feel is the difference between Kirby and Mario. Kirby feels very floaty, right? And like the attacks, like the way you smash down everything, the inhaling part, feels very, very different from Mario. And so Mario Kart feels like Mario. And this feels more like Kirby, which obviously is very appropriate. But if you think it's gonna feel like Smash Brothers, it doesn't. It does not have that sort of punch. Like when you hit somebody with a baseball bat in Smash, that feels perfect, right?
Yes.
It's like this impact. This game is very, very like wobbly, very fast, very twitchy by comparison.
I do like the fact that the mechanic around hitting other players speeds you up instead of like slowing them down. Like there is a small slowdown, I believe, but
that feels good. You're right. Like when you attack somebody, that feels good. Yeah, totally.
So like I think that's just a great way of rewarding like skillful use of items, because Mario Kart, yes, you can have good use of skillful use of items, and it's beneficial to you, but that's usually on like support items, mushrooms, and things like that. And the only time you feels good, like if you land a banana peel, like throwing it over your head and hitting somebody right on top of them, which is very tough to do, but feels really good.
And it's not a shallow game, just to be clear, right? Just because it's frantic and more kid-friendly because you don't have to hold a button to go forward, it auto-drives, right? Just because of that doesn't mean it's not deep, because it does have like 1080 snowboarding. If you land straight, you get a boost, right? Or you lose balance if you don't. In this game, you get a boost if you angle your rider parallel to the ground and land. So it has a lot of technique, which we're expecting from Sakurai. So it is a little bit deceptive.
Yeah, we'll see how this one pans out. It's out, November 20th, was it?
That's a big question. Is it a big Christmas game, or is there also November a Metroid,
20th.
Brian?
We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, November 20th, $70, 25 gigs. which is a lot of that's a lot of gigs for a Switch game.
We
so
already know the size, huh?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of original music on there, and maybe some videos we could watch. So that'll be fun. In the meantime, we had to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with plenty more Nintendo Voice Chat at Gamescom 2025. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. And we are back with a very special Gamescom 2025 episode of NVC live from the biggest video game convention on Earth right here at Gamescom Studio on IGN. I'm Brian. I'm with Jada and Pear. And we all got to spend time playing games at Nintendo's booth, which is lovely. Jada, you got to play Pokémon Legends ZA, which I know is like one of the biggest games of the show. Big lines.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it has the, we've seen the trailers. They've done a bunch of Pokemon Directs. They just had the little Victory Bell, Mega Victory Bell Direct that they had, or video, like YouTube video that came out a couple days ago. But the combat is very different in this one. It's more like Arceus, where action is happening. You're rolling around the battlefield, maneuvering your Pokemon around, trying to take them down without yours fainting. This one, I was kind of surprised how good it felt to play. I was, we know how the performance was in the past Pokemon games, and this one felt very smooth. Now, granted, this was low-level gameplay. I think my highest level Pokemon at the start was 7, and by the time I ended, my Mareep was at like level 9.
Wow,
and
yeah.
So very low-level combat. I also couldn't tell like for sure what moves I was using because it was all in Dutch, and I don't speak Dutch.
Dutch?
Or maybe it was French, German. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was a language.
I hope it was German at Gamescom.
It was a language I did not comprehend. So I was trying to figure it out what moves I was using. Thankfully, they were color coded, so I could tell.
Right.
When I was using a flying move, it was like light blue. Electrical moves were yellow. But it felt really good. One of the things that also I didn't realize, I might have just missed in the previous trailers, but you can do stealth attacks on the different people. So like you can crouch and sneak up and then I sent out my Chikorita and used, I think, Razor Leaf on a Cubone. I think it was a Cubone. I can't remember which Pokemon it was. But yeah, I just did a little stealth attack and then knocked their health down to like half. It was an auto crit, I believe.
They can also get you though, right? Like
Yes.
if you're not facing them, they can get you.
So I don't, maybe wild Pokemon maybe,
Yeah.
but for any of the trainers that I ran into, if I wasn't like sneak up on them, like a question mark pops above their head, like in traditional
I see.
stealth,
Okay,
and then it
okay.
goes exclamation point, and they're like, and they challenge you,
Classic.
and then they pull out their Pokemon if it's not already out already, and then you summon yours.
And did you get to see like creepy Mega Victory Bell or anything like that?
I did not.
We're seeing some footage here of. We're not seeing the scary trailer they put out that revealed
Right.
it, but like.
This generally
nothing.
looks clean and it's running well. I mean, I don't think any Pokemon games in a while have really been the ones that you're just like, this is truly taking advantage of all the power under the hood, right? Like it's not like Tears of the Kingdom or something, but it looks clean and it runs well. And I imagine you didn't get to see too much of like the larger world areas.
Did not. I was locked to just one little small space. For basically, I had to complete 3 battles to earn enough credit to get a ticket, so then I could challenge somebody to raise my rank from Z to Y, but I wasn't even able to do. Unfortunately, the demo ends before you're able to do that challenge battle, so I don't know what those look like either. It'll be very interesting to see how the bigger moves like Earthquake, Surf, Thunder, moves that are either like more screen covering or tougher to dodge.
Right.
Because I did find it pretty easy to maneuver my Pokemon around to dodge many of the attacks, but also I was fighting against like Weedles, so I wasn't really ever in danger.
Yeah, nothing that was too taxing on the Switch 2 hardware.
Exactly.
Basically.
So we'll see what it looks like when they showed that trailer with like the Gyarados. We'll see what those types of moves look like.
Looking at it being played on all the different monitors, you kind of get a good feel for people using different actions. I mean, I think they got so much backlash over the performance in the past that performance it running smoothly was at the top of their list, and you can see they're holding back on visuals, right? Like these are not crazy detailed textures on the ground. They're not doing a ton on the lighting front, so it's very simple. But I think they're trying their darndest to get this to run as smoothly as possible, which means it's not going to be a generational leap over what we remember playing, but it actually probably is a nice step up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing for a while was, these games keep selling incredible amounts, just obnoxiously high numbers.
Yep.
And that, people thought maybe the developers don't even care about performance because they keep hitting, crushing sales targets or whatever it is. But it is nice to see, at least so far, them prioritizing that a bit. And hopefully that is something that holds up in the larger areas.
They were never, this is Game Freak, they were never sort of at the forefront of technical innovation, right?
No.
Like, remember, like, games like Link to the Past, that had been out in 1990, and Pokemon still did not look as good for years and years to come, right? So,
their strengths were always in the RPG mechanics, the depth of combat, the builds you can put your teams together. That was like always like the number one priority, and then like cool creature design. Was maybe that was number one because I think that's what sells Pokemon. It's like, if Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle looked terrible in Gen 1, like, would Pokemon be a thing? Probably not.
Well, I wanted to clean up a couple of other stories here at Gamescom and talk about a couple of other games, actually. So I actually got to play Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on Switch. It's sort of been
what a name, Brian! What a name!
What a name indeed.
Is the name fitting? Tarnished fitting for it?
Okay, so I'm going to be a little gentler on this game than I think some of my colleagues, but I'm gonna kick it in the butt a little bit.
Money hat.
Okay, I got that. I got
they
that
got
big
to
money
you already.
They got to you. Yeah, this is.
You've already got it downloaded on your Switch.
Games like
see a little dollar bill in his pocket or yen bill.
No, so I loved Elden Ring so much. I've made I've a big point of that on podcasts for years now.
Yeah.
100% of that game, did everything you can do in the DLC. Adore it. FromSoft, I don't think has the greatest history of making the best performing games. I think their art direction is second to none, and I think that does a lot of heavy lifting. And their gameplay is phenomenal, so people love it. When Elden Ring came to PC, people with like the beefiest PCs in the world notably had some performance issues. There was stuttering and pop-in and all this stuff. Elden Ring running on Switch 2 on the Nintendo show, or on the Gamescom show floor is an interesting one because they literally said no one could film it, which I believe is the only game at that booth where they're just like, this is not allowed.
Yeah.
They have it behind curtains, and part of that could be because it's like an M-rated game, and they have
100%. Yeah, you have to have the wristband.
Yeah, you need a wristband and all that.
Yeah.
So I played it. They had it on 2 units, 2 docked and 2 handheld, and I was like, please let me play it docked because I heard it's bad in handheld.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't understand what you're saying, so you play it handheld.
Great.
And I was like, great, okay. So they handed me the Nintendo Switch, put the headphones on, started off beginning of the game, bullet run past the first area into the open world of Limgrave, and I'm like, this isn't that bad. Now,
1080p 30 is what they're going for, right?
Yes, and they're not hitting it.
Okay.
But
all right.
I'm also not as snobby about that as most people.
Okay.
So my stance on this is like, there's a lot of people who listen to this show who just don't own other systems, and that's fine, right? Like, they're Nintendo fans, and you guys, you owned a Switch, maybe you owned a Wii U or 3DS or a Wii or whatever your path came up with. But when these big third-party games come out, like Cyberpunk and The Witcher and stuff like that, this could be your first opportunity to play them. And so, by all means, I want those versions to be as great as they can for you. And so far, right now, this ain't that. But it was, for me, manageable. It was something where I was like, I could push past this. Now, if you have played Elden Ring, you know that like that open world's big, and you get into some areas where there's a lot of enemies on screen, and there's slowdown even on like a PS5 Pro, right?
Yeah.
And so I ran up to the area when you kind of move up and left towards that first big castle, and that big giant guy jumps down, and it looked like someone took like 2 pictures of a giant and dropped it off a cliff.
Oh,
it was just like boom, boom, and then he was there. And I was like,
Oh.
I'm going to keep running. I'm going to push this game to the limit, see what happens. The archers start coming out, and like dodge rolling past them was like, I couldn't do it fast enough. And then I get to the first big boss, and like that's when the frame rate started becoming an issue.
You're not selling me on it right now.
Yeah.
You
So
started off saying, it's not that bad, it's fine. And now you're like, I'm worried now.
Yes, yeah.
But, there is one thing to remember. This is a vertical, I don't know if it's possibly a vertical slice of the game that is probably 2 to 3 months old. That's usually how the things that developers are bringing to the show floor. They can't bring the most current build because they have to make sure it's tested all the way to a certain point. And so that could get cleaned up. We still don't have a release date. It's listed for 2025. So it could get better. I think, maybe keep an eye out. We'll probably do, maybe we'll get a chance to do a preview closer to launch or
I hope
something
so,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
It feels a little bit like Cyberpunk at the Nintendo preview of events, right? That one was sort of also sequestered away from the main show floor.
And we weren't impressed with it.
There were
yeah.
some demos like Metroid run really well,
Yeah.
right? And I think the developer really focused on giving you a level experience that almost felt like the finished game, whereas like the guys making Cyberpunk and presumably the Elden Ring team didn't do that, right? They didn't put you in a confined area or designed it around that performance. In the end, Cyberpunk looks really good on Switch too, right? It's one of those showcase games. When you show it to a friend running on that thin little handheld, they go, whoa. It is really impressive. Now, it all depends on whether you played it before in a more powerful console, and then you will see, obviously, the downgrade. And there are places where you can get yourself in trouble when you have too much going on the screen. So I'm hopeful that this is early.
I agree.
That's why they're not a giant booth with 30 stations, like a lot of more finished games are being shown that way, right? So hopefully that's just a taste of what's to come and it'll be ironed out.
They didn't pull out a bunch of space and bring the giant egg that they had at IGN Live. They didn't bring that out.
No, I'm keeping hope alive for this one because I think it's one of the best games ever made, and I hope it runs well on Switch too, and people can eventually play it for the first time or play it again. We also got a couple of smaller announcements this week that I want to clear up real quick that they were great, like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is the first.
Oh my God!
Yeah, this is another fantastic game. This is the first major Switch 2 announcement from Xbox, right? Being like, they've had games on Switch for years now, but this is their first hey, we're putting a next gen game that's under the Xbox portfolio, and we're putting it on Switch 2. Not Forza. I know we both wanted Forza Horizon pair, but this is a good one.
But that's Forza is harder to pull off on the Switch 2 hardware. That is the most beautiful racer ever made, and it runs on 60 now on next-gen hardware, and so you would definitely see the step down here. Now, Indy does not always run perfect, but Indiana Jones is a beautiful game.
It really is.
I absolutely love this.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite games from Microsoft in a long time. It's kind of like a classic adventure game where there's more walking and puzzle solving than combat, which I really like that mix, that I'm not constantly have to be running away from things. The world was absolutely stunning, and
What about boulders?
Yes, and it starts with the Raiders of the Lost Ark sequence.
The tutorial,
But it does
Great.
things like that where they bring in new traps. It's really got that feel of peeling back vines from old stone statues and figuring out
I love
how
this
to
game
put
so
the wooden
much.
peg in and solving. Absolutely lovely, wonderful game. I'm so happy Nintendo fans are going to play this, and you should absolutely play this. Let's hope this version runs nice.
Yeah, the developers told me, I interviewed them about the DLC that's coming out soon, the Order of Giants, and I asked them if this would be sort of feature complete on Switch and if it would have the DLC included, and they said yes. So that's awesome. Hopefully they put it on a cart and collectors get everything all at once. I also asked them if they had considered using motion control Joy-Cons for the whip, and they looked at me like I was crazy. So I don't.
Yeah. That wouldn't be fun. Did you play it, Jada?
I did. It came out at a time where I was not in the mood for slower paced, immersive sim that it is. So I think I made it to the Vatican, and then I had to put it down because I was like, I'm not feeling this, and I don't want it to have a bad taste in my mouth from playing this right now when I'm not in the mood for it.
It's not one of those games where I would say, just keep playing and it gets better. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza, I firmly believe that the farther you get, the better the game gets. This one, if you didn't like the Vatican, it's in a city with lots of people, and you eventually go to the jungle and you pilot a boat and all of that. So it does feel better later, exploration-wise. But if you didn't dig it, it's not going to change a ton.
Oh, I like immersive sims. I like games like Indiana Jones. It just came out at a time when I was like, I've played a couple of these things right now. I've played a couple slower paced things. I want to play something that's more faster paced, more action oriented.
Well, you will love another game that got announced. I'll say it real quick before we move on to the end of the show. Lego Batman. Legacy of the Dark Knight. So this is coming to Switch 2. I imagine it's going to run and play great because it's a Lego game. So it feels like a spiritual successor to Lego City Undercover to me because it's got open world elements, plus the Arkham games, all that fun stuff. It's going to be great.
Combat is so Arkham.
Literally, it is.
Popping into the, underneath the levels, hanging from the gargoyle.
It's got the brick flow system now.
Yep.
We interviewed the developers. They told us every Batmobile ever is in the game. They got to reveal some of the characters and suits and stuff like that. So go check out our Gamescom coverage of that. Last story, real quick. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond officially rated on Nintendo's website.
T for teen.
It's T for teen.
Yep.
But that also means that it's like basically complete,
Yeah.
theoretically, for that to happen.
It's usually, what, 2 to 3 months away for
I mean,
mini games?
usually there are ESRB rated games that have never come out,
That is
ladies
true.
and gentlemen. But that usually means they're getting ready for release because they submitted documentation and playable stuff to them that goes beyond the demo we saw here. Beyond
See what you did there.
but the demo we played here was the demo we played a couple of months ago.
Yes, yeah, same one that was at the Switch 2 previews.
I expected that, though. Honestly,
Yeah,
they
same.
spent a lot of time making a very complete demo with timer and all of that, and it's to demonstrate the mouse controls, which I thought were excellent.
Yeah, they're
It's
great.
So good.
The game's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play it on Switch 2. It's a little surprising it doesn't have a release date just yet, since Kirby did,
Yeah.
but plenty of months before the end of the year. And Nintendo's launched 2 games in a month before, so...
It's got to be this year. At this
Yeah.
point, like, it's got to be. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. This has been an awesome Gamescom covering Nintendo. As always, that just about wraps us up for a very special Gamescom 2025 episode of NVC right here in Cologne, Germany. Thank you, Jada. Thank you, Per. And thank you to the entire crew working here. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Behind the scenes at Gamescom Studio on IGN, new episodes of NVC hit YouTube and your favorite podcast app every week. And they're hosted by Logan Plant, who's an amazing dude and a great friend. I love you, buddy. So be sure to tune in every week and check those out. And as always, Nintendo Voice Chat is on IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network. Be sure to check out all of our other weekly IGN and Geek Media podcasts. And remember, Nintendo Voice Chat is the only place where you can
Get the thing!
Nailed it. Happy Gamescom, everybody.
I think it's the first time we got them all together. at
Yeah.
the same time. That was pretty
Yeah.
innocent.
Oh my God, usually it's like staggered.
Yeah.
Let's go get some coach.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And some gelato.